Redditors who have been given, or have given, the ultimatum of it's either me or the, what was it, and how did it turn out? Not my story, but a story of a bird we used to own, a large cockatoo that my mom bought for my dad. Truth is though, the bird ended up loving my mom more than anything and would scream at everyone else and pick out its own feathers over stress of not being with my mom 24/7. Guess cockatoos can get really attached easily. How'da thunk it got so bad that my parents ended up giving the cockatoo away to some family acquaintance. The guy loved the bird and would walk around town with it on his shoulder and stuff. Eventually, he got a girlfriend, but after several months the bird was being jealous and a bit of a bee to the girlfriend. The girlfriend finally had enough and told the guy, "It's me or the bird." The guy picked the dang bird. Actually, what probably happened with your mom and the bird is that the bird fell in love with your mom and was getting jealous protective over your mom when others would approach. This happens because if you pet a bird anywhere else other than its head, it mistakes the petting for love affection and causes the bird to perceive the other as a mate. Look it up if you don't believe me. XGF said I had to decide between her or my cats. She lost. One of my cats had a reaction to meds for a tooth abscess and puked in her shoes and she went ballistic. They weren't even expensive shoes, but old ones that should have been in the bin ages ago anyways. She objected to the amount of money I was spending on vet bills. My money, not hers. We weren't living together and didn't share any bills finances. I'd had that particular cat since I was a kid, so there was pretty much no contest. He finally died last year just short of his 26th birthday, lying in the arms of my current partner who spoiled him rotten. TL. Doctor love me, love my cats. She told me it was her or my car. Not in the normal sense of she wanted me to sell it. Money for me at the time was tight. I wasn't struggling but couldn't afford too many luxuries and need tires for my car, but she wanted to go on a shopping trip. When I say I needed tires, the fronts had turned into slicks. When I told her I couldn't afford to give her money because I needed to put it in my car and explained to her it was a huge safety issue, she gave me an ultimatum. I chose my car and safety. My ex-wife once asked me to pick between her and our daughter. I told her she would lose, and she ended up getting the help she needed with the postnatal depression. Good man. Also, that's great she got help. My dad's girlfriend witnessed me being molested by her brother and denied it for years. I told my dad, "It's me or her. I don't have contact with my father anymore. I'm so sorry that you went through that. I hope you're in a better place now, and I'm happy that you got out of that terrible situation." My dad came over and told me to choose between my fiancée mother of my child, or my family. I'm now married with 3 beautiful children, and couldn't be happier. I still occasionally hear from my parents, but we rarely respond. I'm not the one missing out on my kids' lives, not my problem. Well, let's hear the background on this one. Either we open our relationship or I'm breaking up with you. We opened our relationship. She broke up with me anyway. When I was 4, my dad decided to buy pulped orange juice. I took one sip and was disgusted by the pulpy bits. Ma usually bought pulp free for me. I told my dad I hated it, but he refused to get rid of it. I told him it was me or the orange juice. Next day, I come into the kitchen, and in the fridge is a container of high pulp orange juice. My dad walked in and told me I needed to get better at picking fights. It's been almost 15 years, and even when I come home he makes sure there's a bottle of extra high pulp OJ in the fridge. Joke's on him. Now I actually like the pulp. Joke's on him. Now I actually like the pulp. He won the battle and the war. I once had a best friend and a girlfriend who hated each other. While my girlfriend hated the dude, she continued to encourage me to be friends with him. The dude couldn't stand her so much he put me in the position where I had to choose one and say goodbye to the other. I've been married to the girl for 10 years and never talked to the guy anymore. Easy choice. Much happier this way. I can't imagine having a guy friend give me an ultimatum over a girl. What the heck is wrong with him? We had a drummer, Scott, tell the rest of the band that it was him or me. They kept me and we renamed the band Scott Free. It's either me or the beard mustache. You better believe I kept that beard. Not so much for the sake of the beard itself, but because making that type of trivial ultimatum is a major red flag. Fun fact. The man with the world's longest recorded beard died when he stepped on his beard by accident and broke his own neck. She made me choose to obey her every whim or she would leave. Turns out it was a power play and I called her bluff. I chose life. My crazy girlfriend said I was obsessed with my Gamma Cube and said she would leave if I kept it in the games or sell it, and she stays. Currently, I am living a happy life with my Gamma Cube, controllers, games, and other consoles and games. I don't know what happened to her. I worked at a care facility where I couldn't keep my own personal cell phone on me but would carry around a work phone as I worked with clients. My friends and family all knew that I was pretty unreachable when I was at work because of this, but for some reason, my boyfriend couldn't understand it. He would get annoyed at me for not responding to his texts or calls to the point he would drive by and make sure my car was at work. He once left me a voicemail alluding to suicidal thoughts since I wasn't there for him. He insisted in the message that I had to choose between him or my job. After I got him checked out, I broke things off as gently as possible. It wasn't so much that I had my dream job but more that we didn't have an emotionally healthy relationship for him and his possessiveness was going to kill him. Good on you. It is hard when you connect with people on certain levels to then let them go, but some red flags can't be ignored. You only have one life and you are worth finding someone who doesn't have a major flaw like that. Boyfriend wanted me to move in, but was allergic to cats. He said I either could prove I loved him and was ready for an adult relationship by getting rid of my cats, or we were done. We'd only been dating 4 months. I tried to explain that throwing out pets I'd had since high school was a dong move I wasn't willing to make after a few months. He said I was a silly child who loved useless, disgusting animals more than humans. We were done. I suppose it's hard to empathize with a cat if all they bring you is problems and itchiness. I'd hate life if I couldn't pet any animal within reason. When I was 16 I got home from school, early release for my last block. My father was upstairs in my bed, drunk, bottle in hand and passed out. He woke up and calmly I asked him to get up and take a shower or I'm out. He told me to go frick myself and proceeded to drink while talking and arguing with himself over some alcohol delusional bulls. Completely forgot my presence. I packed some stuff, called my very dear and childhood long friend to get me. Her and her mother helped me buy a Greyhound ticket out of state to my sister's, about 6 hours south but a horrible 12 hours bus drive. Phones my sister when I was an hour away. Talked to my mom a bit as she begged me to return. I emancipated shortly after and spent a year with my sister working and getting my crap done. Only thing I regret is being the youngest while all my siblings moved out. In similar vein, I was the last resort for my dad's bulls. When I left he focused on my mom. Things were always absolutely terrible for all of us, but since he no longer had an audience the only person he had left to make stabs was her. She passed away 2 years ago from melanoma after a long, grueling few years stuck alone with him before moving out. I came back around and took care of her during treatments and sickness until the day she passed. But still, man, I regret leaving him alone to destroy her mentally and physically. Double-edged sword I guess. Glad I left to save myself from that situation, but I still can't forgive myself for letting her go through that crap alone. That isn't your fault. She could have chosen to leave. One of my best friends said if you end up with her, we are done. He didn't like my GF, and that is his good right, but trying to force my hand, and you will have another thing coming to you. College roommates agreed I could get a cat, then changed their minds. Cat was behaved and used her litter box. They didn't give a reason for but said she had to go. I moved out. That's because well-behaved cats are generally better than college roommates. My ex-boyfriend said it was him or my dog. He refused to move into my place if he was living there too. I chose my dog. He was potty trained and overall a good dog, but he didn't like my BF. Therefore, my boyfriend didn't like him. My mom gave my biological dad's mom the ultimatum of either going to rehab and getting clean so she could see me when I was born or choose her age. Needless to say I have no relationship with my dad or his mom. I read that as needless to say. Some guy I was seeing told me that I was not ladylike enough. He said I swore too much, announced when I had to pee, called him dude, and generally acted like a guy. I guess he wanted me to change. But I dumped him instead. I met a chick that acts just like you. 10/10, would marry again. I gave a former boss an ultimatum once. I could either have a vodka or I'd turn in my keys. I hadn't had a single day off in over a year and worked nights, weekends, and holidays. I got the vodka. Not me, but a mate and I were playing Warhammer 40k. His GF was there being bored. They wandered off and she gave him the ultimatum. It's either 40k or her. He came back in and she didn't. I have had 2 superiors tell me that if my wife ever told me to choose between the military and her, pick the military. You being home more often will aggravate the problems you have, not fix them. Sorries. They are both divorced now. That is the worst advice ever. Sounds like they just want people to re-enlist, which looks better for them. I told my best friend she could either hang out with her new friend or me, but she couldn't do both. Her new friend was a mentally unstable former roommate of mine who attacked and threatened everyone in that apartment with a knife before being committed to a hospital for several months. As soon as she was released, she came back to school, found me and my friend, and became fixated on spending time with my friends and going to the school clubs I went to. My best friend told me that anyone who dared give her an ultimatum like that didn't deserve to be in her life. I just shrugged and explained that her new buddy put me in therapy and I was considering a restraining order. I was sorry, but I wasn't willing to allow that girl back into my life. She threw a fit about how dare I say something so manipulative. She spent the next week trying to trick or force me into going to social events where both of them would be. I went no contact with both of them. A year later, my former best friend tracked me down to apologize. That she just didn't know how crazy and mean my old roommate could be. She wanted to patch up our friendship, but by that point I didn't trust her anymore. That's pretty lethal to any relationship. Interesting to see the other side of this argument for a change. A few years back, my mother said if I continued dating my girlfriend, it was proof I hated her. I guess I must secretly hate my mom because I ended up staying with my GF, my now wife, who is a son and is literally loved by everyone else in my life. I didn't mention that my mother has severe issues, but perhaps you could figure that out. Needless to say, I don't come around very often. I was at this party a couple of years ago in a backyard in the city, and everyone got quite drunk. We were out on the streets as well, when this group of kids, 10-12 of age, came up and threw water balloons. Yeah, I know, at us. And some of those that didn't explode we threw back at them, which obviously made them mad. An hour later or so I came up into the backyard from the toilet downstairs, when I see almost everyone from the party gathered up, and then one of the big brothers to these kids, around 25 years old, we were 16, had his hand on this girl's face, pushing her up against a wall. And obviously I was not just gonna start there doing nothing, so I pushed the guy away, and as he was started to leave, he flew back and threw a forceful punch right at my face. So I went out for a few seconds and stumbled back. I had this liquor bottle in my hand, and all I could think of was smashing it against that freaking idiot's head. And I started approaching him when my crying GF, who witnessed everything, came up and blocked me. And obviously drunk and mad as I was, I kept saying that I wanted to smash him with that freaking bottle. And that's when she said it was either her or the fight. And obviously I knew she said it to keep me out of trouble. And I loved her, so I picked the first. Crap, that got long. Sorry. Had a friend who was saving me, even though she had a boyfriend, and chasing off girls who showed any interest. I started dating someone without telling her and was given the choice between her, my at the time best friend, and my girlfriend. Needless to say, choosing my girlfriend was the best decision of my life. We are still dating 4 years later and are happy as an oyster. My crazy ex gave me ultimatums all the time. My favorite one was it's either me or the music. You can't have me and the trashy crap you listen to. He got P if I listened to Enter Shikari, Arctic Monkeys, NoFX, Motley Crue, or anything really. He was extremely controlling. Sounds like someone who just takes someone and tries to make you then what they want. Told my ex to stop selling drugs or I would leave for good. He didn't think I would. He was sure I'd take him back. 6 years later I'm happily married with kids to someone with a safe, stable job. Last I heard he was having substance abuse and mental health problems and was practically homeless. It's either me or the race car, Bought her a helmet and fire suit. We now have 2 super late models and she's a better driver than me. Me. Stop being a creepy control freak or we're done. BFF. Sometimes you make me so angry I want to hit you. I have a newer, better BFF these days. I don't think you know what BFF means. It's either me or the panties. Context. I told my girlfriend that I'm a crossdresser. We started fighting a bunch about this. She wasn't quite happy with it. One day we got into a really heated fight. I'm talking crap was getting thrown all over the place. Obscenities I never thought I'd say were coming from both of our mouths. At one point she picked up a pair of my panties from the floor and said it's me or the panties. You occasionally girly. Needless to say I chose panties and girlfriend became ex-girlfriend. What a drag. I have one real hobby, a live action RP full contact boffer sport called Amtgard. Every weekend, about 40 or 50 of my friends and I get together and hit nerds with sticks. Amtgard was my only social interaction and is a dang good workout to boot. The girlfriend got jealous of me skipping out for 5 hours every Sunday. I don't think there's room in your life for Amtgard and me, she said. Oh, honey, I don't think you're going to like where this conversation is heading. At the age of 16 I was working in a TV shop. The role mainly consisted a solid 8-hour shift dusting TVs. Didn't really get on with the manager and his equal parts greasy, offensive nature all too well and had a couple of disagreements. One Sunday morning I was called to the owner's office. Knopf, you need to change your attitude or you can frick off now. After glancing at the clock to his right and seeing 10 AM on the day of rest, he knew what my answer was. 2 of my exes have given me the same ultimatum. Either them or H. Unfortunately I chose H both times. No one can force you to stop. You have to really want and be ready to. I am finally clean now and I am still good friends with both of them. I know they were just trying to help. Actually those are two. Well done. Finally broke down on the phone and told my mom she had to choose between me or her mentally abusive boyfriend. She didn't talk to me for 3 weeks, but she got rid of him. This was about 3 years ago. He moved away, moved back here and contacted my mom. She wasn't having any of it. I couldn't have been more proud. Now she's happy and doing so much better, and we're closer than ever. I can't imagine what life would be like had she chosen him. A while back I was okay with the ladies, and had 2 lady friends who I kept in contact with. It was all just friendly for the most part. What I didn't know at the time, and still barely comprehend, is the level of competition that us guys are unwary of between females, and how far and good their social networks and grapevines can be. One of the girls, we'll just call her Mary, was kind of different from me. Her background was from Europe. Blonde, greenish blue eyes, etc. And the other girl was closer to me, but not quite. Southeastern Asian, very sharp and smart. We'll call her Lucy. Anyways, Mary calls me and says, it's either me or Lucy. Me. What do you mean? What's with the ultimatum? Mary, there's stuff about Lucy you don't know, and I'm not in the place to let you know, but you have to choose now. Yes or number. Me. Since you're not explaining what's going on I can't give you an answer. Mary, it was nice knowing you. I wish you the best and I hope you survive this. Click. She never calls or answers again and ends up dating one of my rivals and I basically become completely blacklisted from her group of friends, which I figured out later was quite significant. Anyways, I find out later the hard way that Lucy was just pumping me for information on me, Mary's groups, my rivals, and passing it on to these Southeast Asian gangbangers and other no goods who ended up breaking in and stealing a bunch of stuff. It took a while, but we managed to get back over 90% of it. Come back to the church and your family or go live with your boyfriend. I chose my boyfriend who is now my husband. Happily married and actually on better terms with my family now after much conversation. Still taking a break from the church though. I was working on a long art project that involved the photographing of nude females. In spite of my assurances that it's all on the up and up. In spite of me inviting her to sit in and see how these things actually go. In spite of claiming to care for me and support me, my girlfriend was too insecure about her own body issues and didn't want me seeing beautiful, confident people naked, so she gave me the ultimatum. It's me or the photos. You have to choose. Every single day after that was better. Goodbye, B. Your issues are in your mind, not mine. I won't be punished for them. I have plenty self-image issues, but I really see your perspective. Ultimately, you should trust your significant other to encounter beautiful women, nude or otherwise, and still be faithful since, after all, they chose to be with you. If it wasn't this, then the problem would have been you watching P, or talking to pretty female friends, or even just looking at another woman for too long. I took a second job as a cocktail waitress at a strip club to pay the bills because the other job wasn't cutting it. I did it in secret, IDKY, so in that sense I was wrong. My first day my man found out, and that night it's me or that job. Our relationship was on the decline, but I quit that night and chose him. We separated a few months later. I felt I chose wrong. Fast forward a few years, I got a job dancing at the same club, making good money, living a great life with the man I love, and am marrying this year. So at the time I felt I chose wrong, but it almost worked out better that way, had me realize I wasn't happy those years ago. Yay, happy endings. Sort of a long story, but the context is needed. I played college baseball. First at a junior college in the hopes of either getting drafted or securing a scholarship to a 4-year school someplace where I'd never see snow again. While I was at the junior college, in Illinois, I started dating the girl I thought I would marry. She was from the town my college was in, but had moved outside of Atlanta her senior year of high school. Once she graduated HS in Atlanta, she had come back to her hometown to attend JUCO with her friends. I ended up getting offered a couple scholarships, one of which was to a school near Atlanta, and although it wasn't my top choice, I decided to accept it almost entirely because she had decided to attend the University of Georgia on a partial cheerleading scholarship, and that way I got to play baseball someplace warm, got my college paid for, and we would be near each other. Long story short, the school I planned to attend, after facing some NCAA sanctions, ended up losing some of their scholarships. So mine was reduced from a full ride to only a partial. It was an expensive school, and baseball was the only way I could pay for my education, so I was forced to start looking for new schools. I lucked into a full ride by happenstance. I was completely unaware that an older pitcher on my summer baseball team was in fact the new head coach at a local college. And oddly enough, he had just had a scholarship become available. One of his players had just been drafted, so he offered me a full ride. I drove from Indianapolis to Atlanta the next day to share the good but also a little sad news with my GF in person. I knew this meant we were going to have to do the long distance thing, and neither of us wanted that, but baseball had always been my dream, and I once again was getting the opportunity to get a free education just for playing the game that I loved. I thought she would be ecstatic for me in this new opportunity, and the reason I had driven to Atlanta in person was to also talk to her father about getting permission to marry her. I wasn't in a rush to get married, but felt that getting engaged might somehow make the long distance aspects a little more bearable, if anything to reassure each other of our devotion. Well, she went batshit over the news, and told me her dad, he owned his own business, would give me a job and then drop the ultimatum that I move to Atlanta, take his job offer, and continue college out of pocket, or we break up. I went to stay with a friend from high school who lived in the suburbs, some area called Peachfuck or something or other, and gave her a couple days to maybe calm down or reconsider. I mean, if we were going to commit to each other for the rest of our lives, what was the big deal with having to wait a couple years? But she didn't change her mind. She honestly thought, without even an ounce of hesitation, that I would choose her. I didn't. I've got two, and I was the ultimatum giver both times. First, the really sad one. I told my ex-best friend it was either stop being such a racist homophobe or get out of my life. My ex-best friend is part Native American, part black, adopted, and bisexual. Got married to a woman and they had a child, and he completely went off the deep end. It wasn't just passive racism, it was making his blood boil. I told him to cut it out and he completely lost his mind, basically just spouting off a bunch of Stormfront infowers nonsense at me. It was unbelievable that someone who was my best friend for 23 years had, seemingly overnight, turned into this. The sad part is that he was just arrested for hiring someone to murder his mother-in-law. I think it was his wife's idea, but crap's still going through the courts. He's not all there in the head. Very easy for someone to manipulate, and I think his wife did just that. I don't know though. I haven't talked to him in over a year. Second, I told my GF it was me or the alcohol, about a year and a half ago. We both have history of alcohol abuse and I never expected her to just not drink ever again. I still drink responsibly, but after a golf outing she bartended for, she drove home drunk as frick, high-centered her car on a curb in our parking lot, and pee all over the sofa. I told her that was the last straw since she had crossed the line to putting other people in danger, and if she wanted to live that life she was free to do so, without me. Last week I asked her to marry me and she said yes, so it ended up good for both of us. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.